Hey everybody, welcome back to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com, and here on the YouTube channel, and this time out we're taking a look at another brand new plugin. This one is by Plugin Alliance. This is the Lindell 69. This is the emulation of the old Helios consoles from the late 60s through the early mid 70s. We're going to listen to it on some drums, some bass, acoustic, electric, piano. Let you see what it sounds like, or let you listen to what it sounds like. We're going to walk through the controls together and show you all the beautiful things that this thing does, and then you could go demo it for 14 days yourself if you'd like. This is not a sponsored video. I paid for this with my own money via the Plugin Alliance subscription, so I have this in my bundle. So before we get to that, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, if this is your first time here, go to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com because I want to give you a free mixing course. It's right on the homepage. It's worth $100. It's my gift to you just for visiting Home Recording Made Easy. And if you stick around towards the end of the video, I'm going to give you something else for free. So here we are. Okay. So this is a two-part plugin. This has the channel part of the plugin here, which is the channel strip, which we're going to look at. And then this also has on the buses in your master bus, you can also add the bus part of the plugin right here. Okay. So if you're just going to run channel strips, let's say on your buses and your master bus, you could just use the bus part of the plugin if you didn't want to use the whole channel strip. Or you can use the channel strip and use the bus part of the plugin on the buses, which is what we're doing here. So this is on our master bus, as well as on our drum bus and our guitar bus, which I'll show you in a bit. So let's take a walk through the plugin, tell you what it does, show you how it, show you. You can listen to how it sounds and you can decide whether you like it or not. This is a pretty cool plugin. I think you're going to dig it. So over here on the left-hand side, we have our metering, our input meter, and our gain reduction meter. We have this input gain down here. The more we turn up the gain, the more signal is going to go into the plugin. But what's really great about this is this unity toggle switch right here. This will offset the volume. So in other words, as we crank up the gain, which I'll demonstrate in a bit, you keep the unity switch on and that will automatically level compensate. So it's the same volume as you turn up the input. The output automatically gets turned down. Very handy. We have a switch here in the center, which toggles how we want to see our meters at the top. Right now, you'll see it says input, but if I switch it to the bottom, it'll say output. So you can check the VU meter inputs or outputs. Then we have a 20 dB pad right here. So that's our input section. In the center here, we have a pretty simple EQ. Starting at the top, we have our high frequencies. We have a toggle switch that goes between 610 and 14K. So a lot of these analog desks, especially these old ones like the Helios and like the red consoles, they have they have very limited amount of frequency selection. That's the way the consoles were back then. They can't pick those frequencies and you just work with them. You don't have anything in between, which is kind of nice because it's kind of limiting, but they always sound great. And you can plus or minus 10 dB on these three frequencies. The mid frequency, this works as either a boost or a cut. Okay, so we have a toggle switch here and we go from 700 hertz up to 6K. And we could boost or cut it, okay, by 15 dB. Okay, there we go. Then we have our bass frequencies down here. Now this acts a little bit different than a traditional channel strip or a traditional console. Right here we have our frequency selector down here, and you'll see that when it's at zero, okay, here, anything below the zero line, you'll see is a negative 50 hertz low cut in 3 dB steps. Okay, so the way you get to that is you turn down this all the way to zero. When this is at zero, this now acts as a low cut filter at 50 hertz by 3 dB increment steps. Okay, if you want to use it as a boost, then you can put it like on, say, on 60 hertz, anything above this zero line. Now this becomes a 15 dB boost, up to 15 dB. Okay, so that's how that works. So it can either be a 50 hertz low cut filter, or it can be a boost at 60, 100, 200, or 300. It's a little different than a traditional console, but it's quite useful. We also have pre and post here. This will allow us to put the EQ before or after the compressor or dynamic section. We could turn the EQ on and off here. Next to that, we also now have on top of this 50 hertz low cut, if we wanted to, let's say, boost at 60 hertz on the kick drum, like I do here, but you want to do a low cut filter here, you have 40 or 80. So there's a predetermined low cut here for things like electric guitars and things like that, or whatever you want to use it for, where you don't have to use the 50 hertz cut here. Did I say 50 dB? I mean 50 hertz. Okay. Hope that makes sense. In the center here, we have our dynamic section. Okay, so at the top here, we have our sidechain filter. We have our parallel wet dry knob, which was not on the original console. We have a built-in limiter here. We have our ratio release. We have a 3 position attack, slow, medium, fast. Okay. Then we have our threshold. We have our input to the compressor and then an output so we can level match. Turn it on and off here. We have what's called a Navo switch, and this works the way this has direct effect to the side chain. You can read the manual on that. I'm not going to get into all the nitty gritty on that. I'm not even quite sure exactly what it does, but you got to read the manual. But I think it's connected to the side chain. Then we have this smash knob here, or smash switch, which does parallel compression. Will really over compress it, and you can use the wet dry knob to just dial back a lot of the compression and dial in some of the dry signal, which we'll demonstrate on the drum bus here in a few. The next side, we have our gate and expander section. We have all the usual suspects: a release, a range, a threshold, and then we can have a slow, medium, attack, slow, medium, or fast attack. We can either turn it off. The switch down here will be a gate, or it can also be an expander. Okay, then we have a hold feature, and then we have an inversion of the way the expander works here as well. Then up here, we have our TMT here, which is something that's unique to Plug-in Alliance, where they've actually modeled the different actual channels of a Lindell console. So right here we have, you can see it says channel 1 here. And if I click this arrow, it can go channel 2, channel 3, channel 4, channel 5, so on and so forth. And what that does is that when they emulate or when they model each individual channel of a real analog desk, a Lindell, or a Helios, excuse me, each one of those channels is going to sound slightly different because all the electronics in there have different tolerances. They've aged over time, and they don't sound exactly the same. And there's some crosstalk that goes on, so on and so forth. And that gives it more of that authentic, if you will, sound. It gets you closer to the real thing when you model different channels of a physical desk. So if you put this across all your tracks, this particular plugin, which we did, and I'll show you, like down here, we have them all down here across the top of all of our tracks. And on each one of those, I switched the channel to its appropriate channel. So the kick channel is on channel 1. And if I go to the snare, you'll see it says channel 2. And I did that all the way through. So they're all going to sound a little different from each other. Again, it helps give it a little bit more of a realistic feel to a real Helios console. Okay. Now you can randomize this stuff as well. If you have these across all your tracks, you can randomize the 1. So we're on channel 2. If I want to hit random, now it's going to go to 21. I hit it again, it'll go to 23 or 25. Or you can just double click in there. You can type the number. If you want to randomize all the different channels across all the instances in your session, you can hit the all button. And that's kind of cool. And we'll do that maybe towards the end of the video, because when you randomize all of them, okay, it's a compound effect thing. It's one particular channel strip on one single track. There's not going to be much of a difference between one channel or the other. But when you do it across a whole mix, you'll hear some subtle difference in the way the tonality of the plugins combine sound. And we'll test that out. Then we have a cut here, which is going to mute the output to the plugin. We can phase flip it. Then we have our output fader. And that's it. So what I did is here, to save time in the video, is I went through and I just did a little quick mix, some EQ, a little bit of compression, some drums, bass, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, and piano. So before we jump into just one of these and I'll demonstrate, I just want to give you a feel for what it sounds like before and after. So if you just keep your eye on the power button, I can turn all the plugins off here in Studio One just by clicking this button. So when it's blue, they're activated. When they're not blue and it's gray, it's deactivated. Just listen to what happens when I take this away and remove it all, how the accumulative effect, what it sounds like. Here we go. Very nice sounding, very musical. And what I love about this particular console, the Helios, and it reminds me similarity-wise to like some of the old Abbey Road consoles, EMIs, like the Reds in particular, meaning they have a pretty nice warm, fat sound to them. They're not top end really shrilly. They're not very bright and present. You could be very aggressive on the top end EQ and they never get too bitey, unlike something like an Eve might. So it's got a different sound, which is kind of cool. So if you're kind of like an Eve API kind of a guy or gal, this gives you a totally tonal palette that's totally different, which is kind of nice. And it sounds really great. So let's just listen to a couple of tracks here. Here's our, I'll just go through. Here's our kick track here, just to solo this up to kind of give you a feel for what we're dealing with here. So boost at 60 hertz, almost 10 dB. Let's see, took a little bit out at 700. And a little bit of 10K to get a little slap. That's before. After. We also have above the input knob this little total harmonic distortion screw here. And to be honest with you, it's very subtle. On some tracks, you don't even hear it. So let me just demonstrate that for you here. I got it all the way down. All the way up. Just a tiny bit of crispiness at the top. It's very subtle. Let me demonstrate what this Unity toggle switch does for you. So like I said, again, I have them on all the tracks. That allows me to boost the preamp and keep the plugin level match. It compensates for the output. So let me just turn this down to 0 here. Let me turn this off. Let me show you what happens when I just creep up the gain a little. Hear it? So now if I use the Unity, that sounds great, right? So there you go. So you can hear the distortion from pushing the preamps too hard. Okay, now on our compressor here, I did a 3-to-1 ratio here. I'm doing a slow attack, fast release, and just hitting over here a couple of dB. A subtle amount of compression on that kick. Now, if we wanted to randomize the channel, again, I don't know how well you're going to hear it on this one track. We'll do it on the whole mix in a minute, but just so you can get a feel for what you can do with it. You can hear a little bit of a tonal shift there. So that's kind of what that does. Okay, that's just our kick. Let me go to our snare top here. So I added a little bit, 3 dB at 100 hertz. Okay. I boosted a little bit. No, I didn't boost anything at 2.8. At 6K, I boosted 10 dB. So here's without the EQ. Okay, and a low cut filter at 80 hertz. On the compression side, again, 2-to-1 ratio, slow attack, fast release, a little bit of compression. Gives us a little bit more sustain, okay? Let's pick another track here. Let's go to maybe some overheads just so you could hear it. Okay, also too, I failed to show you that you can resize the plugin. Here's an example of it. Here's how big it can get. Over here in this little menu up here, there's a few things that we can do. We can adjust the GUI size. which is great depending on the size screen you're on. We can also choose the oversampling. Again, higher oversampling, they say, is going to give you a little bit more. It's going to respond a little bit more accurately to the incoming signal, be a little bit more accurate sounding, but it's going to take a lot more CPU. Right now, I'm just leaving it 2 as the default. We have the way our limiter sensitivity can be set. We also can change the way the compression acts with the side chain filters as well. Okay, and you can go out to the website, read the whole manual top to bottom if you want. Okay, so here's our overheads. So a little bit of a boost at 100, a little bit of a cut at 700, and a big boost at about 6K, about 6 dB. On the compression, again, slow attack, fast release, 2-to-1 ratio. Not too much compression on these overheads. Okay, pretty straightforward. Let's go to bass just so we can hear what bass does. This THD, it's almost inaudible what it's really doing. I bet you if you put it in a, on an analyzer and plug-in doctor, it probably adds a little bit of noise to a level that you can't even really hear. But again, I mean, it's an accumulative effect thing. So there you go. Again, a little bit of EQ here. A little bit of boost at 100, 3 dB boost at 700 to bring out some more of that distortion. And at 6K, I boosted up a little to kind of grid it up a little bit. And again, by pushing the gain, you could even distort it up more if you wanted to do that. You wanted to get kind of a fuzz thing. Okay, we're doing a fast attack on our bass here for our compressor, and we're using an auto release, and we're compressing, I don't know, 3-to-1 ratio. Okay, there we go. So now if we want to listen, let's say, I'm not going to go through every instrument, but what we can do is let's go down to our drum bus here just so you could see what I kind of did here with the parallel compression. Okay, so here I kind of left the EQ pretty flat. I didn't do anything on the drum bus, but over here in the compressor, I used the smash circuit, and then I used the mix knob to kind of dial in some of that parallel compression. So here's without it. You could dial in as much or as little as you like. Kind of cool. And then right after that, I have our bus part of this plugin, which actually does something like on the I think it's the Lindell, the other one, the Neve one that they did. I wasn't happy with the bus section, but on this one, on the Helios one, it seems to work pretty nice. So let me just bypass this so you can hear what it does to the drums. You can hear the richness that kind of comes out. I like this a lot. This is really nice. And then I did the same thing on the entire mix here. So if we just listen back to the whole mix. Really cool. So now if I want to randomize, if I just open up, let's say the first channel strip, and let's randomize all of them, that's going to change the TMT, all the different channel numbers, and let's just see what it does. I have no idea. I know it's going to sound a little different, which is great, and you can just experiment till you find something you like. Kind of like that. I mean, you could definitely hear that. It definitely changes the tonal characteristics of this whole thing, which is cool. I mean, it's a cool thing to play around with if you just want to click around until you find something that you're happy with. Okay, so one last time, let's listen, and I'll just turn them all on and off. You hear what it does. Very cool. Very cool. So again, I'm a big channel strip guy. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that. And I have them all. I mean, I have all the ones by Plug-in Alliance, Universal Audio, Waves, you name it, I got them all. Plug-in Alliance, everybody's. And I use them, different ones all the time. So there's a big difference in sound between something like an SSL, a Neve, an API, and something like a Helios. They sound completely different. This to me reminds me more of the older style, kind of in the same vein as the Abbey Road stuff by Wave, the red, the EMI TG12345. It's in that family to my ears. It's not as more modern sounding maybe as something like a Neve or an SSL or even some of the API Vision stuff. So it's a different flavor, which is cool. It's got a lot of flexibility here. There's a lot of stuff you can do. We touched on most of the basic features, but you can do a whole bunch more with this thing. One thing about this particular channel strip, you'll want to do a deep dive into the manual to really understand some of the more finer details of this plugin. It's a little bit more involved, if you will, than something that's like a straight up SSL. But it's cool. It's got a different sound. So if you're into it, you can buy it. I think with Plug-in Alliance, you can buy their plugins, you can get on their subscription or a combination of both. They're always changing the plans over at Plug-in Alliance. Seems like every week they're changing their plans, but it's a good plugin. And all the plugins that they do, I have, and they all sound really good. So if you're just looking for something a little different, hey, this is something to take a look at. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look at the Helios, the Lindell 69 here by Plug-in Alliance. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, I want to give you something else here for sticking around. So make sure, again, you go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Get yourself that free mixing course. We're talking about mixing. We're talking about channel strips. It's a free mixing course. It's a $100 course just for visiting Home Recording Made Easy. No strings attached. If you like that course and you want to take one of my other fully featured full-length training courses on my website, I want to give you a 25% discount coupon code. That coupon code is YouTube25. If you put that in at checkout, it'll take 25% off anything on the website. So make sure you like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the Lindell 69 by Plug-in Alliance. And until the next video, I've been Dave with HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com. Thanks so much for watching me, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next video.